Okay, so it's 12 o'clock now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. That way I can be respectful of everyone's time. First off, want to definitely thank everybody for tuning in. I know it's at 12 o'clock, and we decided we've done a number of these webinars at 12 o'clock in the hopes that you guys can go and grab your lunch maybe before, and then that way you can kind of just do what the majority of us do, or a lot of us do, which is eat while we sit here and learn and such. So I've got Keely on the call with me as well, or on the webinar, and she will be monitoring the chat and that kind of thing. So Keely, definitely chat with me or message me or stop me if there's any questions, and we can talk about that. So we're good, I assume. No chats yet, I'm sure. But okay, well, let's get started. So number one, obviously you guys see the Tesla there. If you follow us on social at all or anything like that, you've probably seen the announcement. I'll talk later about it. I don't want it to kind of take over the show, which it definitely will. So be on the lookout for that later in the webinar here. But cyber scams. So we've been seeing I would say a decent uptick of cyber scams, just as far as the emails, the text messages, that kind of thing. These guys really, they really put they put a lot of work into this stuff, especially with everybody going home and such. It has been quite lucrative for the criminals, quite frankly. So let's go ahead and go through the different agenda, or go through the agenda. I am going to flip off my video. That way you guys, I might be moving around. I don't want to distract you. So here in the agenda, the way that I designed this agenda was the first half is going to be kind of the users, so the employees of an organization. And then the latter half is going to be the managers or the owners. So that way you can kind of see both perspectives, because I know that we have some of each on the call. So the employee section, first thing we're going to talk about is all the 5 scams that we see most often right now, as well as what to do if you receive or if you get hit with those scams, that kind of thing. We're actually going to go through step by step on what you need to do as an employee if you fall prey to one, or how to not fall prey to one. The other thing is, I recommend this, and your company may actually already have a policy in place for it, but that is setting a goal for your own training. Now, if you're on this webinar, then congrats. You're already light years ahead of many people, because they kind of take the approach of sticking their head in the sand, and they don't invest the little bit of time that it takes to just be aware of these types of scams and how to not fall prey to them. And if you accidentally do, what do you do? That kind of thing. My goal is to have some sort of a constant training, maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks. I'm looking for, and it doesn't have to be formal training. It can just simply be formal training's good, by the way, but it can simply be breezing over the latest scams in the news and just seeing how they got in. You don't have to know the technical side. You just have to understand what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And when I say they, of course, I mean the criminals. So the manager or owner section, that's going to be the same type of things, but it's going to be from a managerial perspective. What can you do so your employees don't fall prey to these, or if they do, what you need to do. We'll also talk about some basic routine maintenance checks that I recommend you have a conversation with your IT provider on, to talk about all of these different items. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of these items here in a bit. And then finally is I recommend that formal training program if you can help it, or if you can do it, because, and it's not crazy expensive by any means, but it gets everyone in the habit of going, I'm going to pay attention to what the latest scams are and how to not fall prey to them. So if you guys have went to any one of our cybersecurity webinars, or in live events when we used to have them, but you guys have probably seen these stats. So I'm going to breeze through some of them. Just be aware that they're out there. Be aware that you know ransomware is out there. You know phishing's out there. Cybersecurity in general is still a pretty big topic. Quite frankly, I think COVID, it's definitely bigger. Before COVID, all we heard about was cybersecurity. Now all we're hearing about is COVID. So at some point, it'll probably flip again. But it doesn't mean that the cyber warfare, the ransomware, went away. It is still happening. It's still there. As you can see, some of these stats are a little bit old just because we've used them for a while, but I could update these literally if you go to Google and type in ransomware attacks over the last month. You're going to see multiple cities, I'm sure. You're going to see multiple school systems. They keep happening. So the point is, just be aware. Every 11 seconds there is another victim, and the costs they're rising. They're definitely rising pretty quick. So to give you the best example, you can just imagine that, because I had a conversation with someone the other day, and they said, how much money do these guys actually make? Or what is their potential? Well, if they have a bot or a robot that's sending out blast emails and that kind of thing, and they send it out to, let's say 3,000 people. Well, if one person clicks on it and they're able to infect 10 computers at $2,000 a piece, something like that, and they're able to do this every day. If the people actually pay, they don't, for a couple man shop or a one man shop, they may only have to do this once a week, or once a month, if it's just a one man show. So the costs are there, and they can get the money because people are willing to pay it. As you saw, cities and such are willing to pay it because the cost of being down actually costs more than just paying the ransomware. So, of course, the loss of clients, loss of revenue, that's a huge thing, because as you can imagine, especially for something like a city, if they had to say, hey, we can't dispatch police, we can't dispatch fire because all of our systems are encrypted, that's not going to give your citizens a whole lot of confidence in your ability. So the point is, for everyone on this webinar, is just be aware that it's there, be aware of the cost, and then let's talk a little bit about how to mitigate that and how these things are kind of coming through. Now, that last one, I meant to click and add that, but it is true. 70% of businesses never recover, which is pretty baffling. If they don't have good backups and you don't have a good plan, you can end up in that 70% very quickly. So let's get straight to the scams. So scam number one, this is a common one. This one started a couple years ago, but again, it is back rampant again. So I have your password, and you must pay for me to delete it. Now, what that is you're going to receive an email that looks very similar to this, and it's going to say maybe stop visiting so-and-so sites. I've got your password. I know that you were visiting the sites, and I have a video of you doing whatever it is, and I'm going to send it out to all your family and friends. So a couple things there. Number one, they're using, obviously, intimidation. Number two, they'll say just about anything. I've seen these emails go out, and I mean, they just say all kinds of stuff about, I caught you doing this, or I caught you doing that. The other thing is, it could be a real active password you have. You guys can actually see that summer123 back in the day before I was trained. I thought that my wife's name and the numbers 123 was very secure. So I did have that password, but so that was a real password that I was using, unfortunately, in multiple places. But I got an email like this and it made me rethink it because they're saying, I've got your password. So it could be your real password. It could be your password you logged into your machine with that morning. And I'll talk about how they get that here in just a second. So that quote unquote person really does have the password mentioned. Now, I put person here in parentheses because I want you to know that when people email you these scams, people quote unquote, most of the time it's this guy. Honestly, it's not a human being on the other end. It is a bot. It is just a simple program that is written to literally go out on the dark web and grab all the passwords and email addresses it can, and then use those, type this email in a format like you see there, and send it over. So that's all it's doing. It's not most of the time, from my experience, it has not been a human on the other end. Now, if you reply to them, they will reply back. So they will reply back and they'll have a full out conversation with you if you'd like, but I don't recommend it. But so that person has the password, and it could be a real active password. So how they get these things is if you have LinkedIn or Facebook or anyone like that, if there is ever a data breach, so if Facebook ever accidentally says, hey, we're sorry, there was a leak, we dropped all of the email addresses as well as all your passwords. Well, what that does is that goes on the dark web. When that goes on the dark web, then some people grab it as far as for sale. They may buy it, that kind of thing. And now they have your email address and they have your password. Now, where that is beneficial, and the reason why they do that, is because then they know that most people set their passwords the same across the board. You heard me earlier mention, before I was taught differently, I was using the same password in all the different locations, or in multiple locations. So what they're going to do is they're going to take that and they're going to say, this was his Facebook password. I'm willing to bet that I can try every bank that is out there, every banking website, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all of them, and I'm going to try that email address with that password. So that's what they're doing. That's what they're wanting to do. And when that doesn't work, of course, they can always send you this and say, hey, I caught you doing something you shouldn't have. I've got your real password. You're going to pay me, or blackmail you. So almost never have I ever seen anyone do what they say they're going to do, because they'll say they're going to forward it to your family or forward it to your friends or release it on Facebook and tag you in it. I almost never see that. But then again, I don't know if I've been caught doing anything like that. So that it doesn't matter. But they won't do, my point is, they won't do it. So what do you do for scam number one? First thing is ask yourself, do you have that password used anymore? So I still get these emails from time to time saying, hey, I've got your password. Well, that's fine. I don't use that password anymore. If so, though, if you do use that password anywhere, you want to make sure that you change it. So go ahead and go change it immediately and delete the email without responding. There's no sense to respond to these people. If you have the ability to check the dark web, which you can get tools to help you check that, this may be a good reminder to go and say, hey, I'm going to go and search the dark web and make sure that all my other passwords aren't compromised. It's not likely that they are. It's just, this is a good reminder. Anytime I get an email like this, which it's not anywhere near as often as it was, I will go, hey, I haven't checked the dark web in a little while. I'm going to go and check and make sure that there isn't any of my other passwords out there. While you're changing your password, there's some recommendations. Those are just standard type recommendations, minimum 8 characters, special characters, possibly use a password manager. That way you can use completely random passwords, as well as turn on multi-factor authentication. That's highly recommended pretty much across the board. And that just, if you don't know what multi-factor is, you go to log in, it sends you a text, it puts a code on your phone, and you have to type it in. So just multiple pieces to authenticate. Scam number 2. Caller says you have a virus on your computer and we are Microsoft. So this one, again, came in a few years ago, but I'm seeing the same types of things again. I'm seeing more and more, especially as more and more people are working from home. So first thing, Microsoft, let's be clear, they sell software. They make some products and such, the Xbox and that kind of thing, but they do not call you to clean viruses on your computer. They have their hands full with this is a tiny bit of what they sell. They have their hands full selling software. They don't call anyone. I don't think I've ever received a Microsoft call kind of urging me to do anything that was legitimate. They'll call you for support. If you submit a ticket, it takes a while, but they will do that from time to time. But as far as they will not call you. The flip side of this is these people that are posing as Microsoft, what they're wanting you to do, if no one has fell on this here, is they'll essentially get you logged in or get you to log them into your computer with a remote piece of software. And then they will run a tool on your computer that essentially just has a whole lot of red in it. It has a whole lot of red and a lot of flashes going, hey, you see, there's this problem. I can show you right here. There's a problem. The thing's not doing much. It's already going to show, it's going to show red on a completely clean computer. And what they say is, we'll sign you up for an annual membership or something where we'll clean the computer ever so often, whatever it may be. There's a chance some of these people are legitimate and they're actually cleaning something. I personally have never seen one, primarily because what it looks like, they just blanket call across the board and say you have a virus. So if you start on the premise of, I don't know these people, but I'm going to lie to them and say they have a virus, I wouldn't trust them, is what I'm trying to say. So just be aware of that. So what do you do for that scam? Number one, hang up the phone. Again, that's going to be a theme throughout this whole thing. It's just hang up the phone, delete the email, delete the text, whatever it may be. It's not worth trying to have a conversation with them and try to figure out where they're at or anything like that. If you want, you certainly could run a virus scan on your computer. It's almost certainly not necessary. Again, as I just said, these guys blanket call people across the board. So you can. It never hurts to run an extra virus scan, but it's normally not necessary. The final thing I'll say on this is tell your loved ones about this. From my experience, these guys it kind of comes in waves. Sometimes you'll hear about somebody will give a call on your cell phone, and then a week later you'll hear about somebody else that had the same thing. So just tell your loved ones about it, because maybe you are working every day and you're trained in this. You know it's a scam. You know Microsoft's not going to call you, but maybe your grandmother doesn't, or your grandfather, or even your kid. It doesn't matter. I found this online. I thought it was funny. Check your credit card if it's been stolen. But it happens all the time. It happens so often, and we see it. And most of the time we see it after the fact. Here at ComTech, we'll have somebody call us and say, hey, I think I messed up. I think I gave them access to my computer, and now I've got a charge on my card, that kind of thing. So just be thinking about that. Okay. Scam number 3. So email for an invoice that needs to be paid. A lot of times this will come from an unreputable source, meaning someone you have no dealings with. I had one time where I had some work done on a rental property that I have, and I think it was just a coincidence, but I had a HVAC company do it. And then another HVAC company, quote unquote, sent me an invoice and said, here, you need to pay this invoice. But I immediately recognized it and said, I didn't deal with that HVAC company. It's kind of strange. So if you're receiving an invoice from someone that you've never dealt with, I wouldn't suggest opening it. If you need to, you can pick up the phone and you can go out to that person's website and you can call. Don't call the number on the email. Now, I also put in here possibly look legitimate, which I'll show you a legitimate type 1 here in just 1 second, because they can make them look very, very good. A lot of times they'll want you to log in to a web page to view the invoice. They're not just going to attach the invoice. And here's one of the bigger things that we look for here at ComTech is when you click on a link, well, number one, make sure you check the link, hover your mouse over the link. If it looks like it's going to a legitimate website, then maybe. But if you go to the link and it says you don't have to create an account, don't worry, you can use your Google, your Office 365, your Facebook account. It has many different options because, quote unquote, they're doing it for you. It's convenient. Well, that's kind of a little bit of a red flag. That means to me, most of the time, they are literally just searching for an email address and a password. That's what they're doing. So goal here is your password and email address. Again, they can take that information, they can put it in their bot, and then the bot just logs in as fast as it can to every site you can possibly imagine. And if they get in, then great, then they can keep going. So here's one that I received. This is a little bit different. It's not an invoice saying I owe something, but it's actually a refund from allergy, asthma, and immunology relief. I don't know what this is. I actually received this just the other day. And again, instead of directing it to me directly, it says, hi, ComTech Network Solutions. So that's another flag that doesn't make sense. So just there's lots of things we can analyze about this, but the point is don't open invoices that you weren't expecting, and don't sign in to just random web pages. So what to do? Do you do business with this company or that person? Never click on the link they provided. Do they have a website that you can go out to directly? Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Do not click on the links in the email. Even if their signature looks like it goes to if it looks like it goes to ComTech NC, doesn't matter. Open up a web page, type in comtechnc.com. Do they have a phone number on their website? Don't call the number on the email. I have seen, it's rare, but I have seen where they will actually pick up the phone. It is a human on the other end, and they'll pick up the phone, they'll talk to you, they'll definitely text you back. They have no problem with texting. Delete the email. Just delete it. Don't try to track it down. You certainly can, but it's more trouble than it's worth, if you ask me. So, scam number 4, gift card scam. This one has become even more prominent in COVID. I've seen multiple people get hit here. So what it is they email and they say, hey, 9 times out of 10, it looks like it's coming from someone that's inside the company. So most of the time they target, most of the time it will be, I'll show you right here, it'll be the boss. So they'll look on, a good example, and I'll show you, is they look on our website. They look at the CEO. So they say, okay, Mike Farlow's the CEO. we're going to look at all the other employees. If we can figure out what their email is, we're going to spoof Mike's account. We're going to make it look like it's coming from Mike, and we're going to ask all of his employees to go and buy gift cards, scratch off the gift cards, the codes, and send a picture. So essentially all they're doing is just taking the money from the gift cards. But ask users to buy gift cards and then send over the numbers. And they always have, there's always a sense of urgency about this. They want the person to do it very quickly. I've seen where the employee replies back and says, hey, I don't know if I have, I've even seen one time said, I don't know if I have that amount of money on my credit card to go and buy it. Can I come and grab the business card? And the person replied back and said, no, I don't have time for the business card. This is urgent. I need it right now. Is there any chance you can take out an advance on your credit card, on your personal credit card, so the employee goes and does it? So it's very urgency driven. And again, it sounds crazy when I'm talking about it like this. It sounds insane. You're sitting here going, as an employee, you're sitting here going, who would fall for this? I don't know. Well, it's pretty simple. The main reason why it's simple is because most employees, especially if they're new, even more if they're new, they want to make their boss happy, and rightfully so. I want to make my boss happy, but so they won't ask as many questions. Stuff that seems a little bit off is we're still going to go and do it because I want to make sure that the boss is happy. So let me actually let me show you what to do, and then I'll actually give you a real live example of this. It happened in the last couple of weeks here at ComTech. So first thing, of course, does your boss normally ask you to do things like this? If you're brand new to the company, then you can't really answer that. Go ask who is emailing you about this. Do not email them back. You're not emailing your boss. You're not emailing who you think you're emailing 9 times out of 10. Never buy gift cards and send over unencrypted email. There's just so many problems with that. We won't go into that. The long story short there is, don't think that email is secure. Email by itself is not secure. It's just like sending a public piece of snail mail and somebody could easily open it up and look at it. It's pretty simple. Encrypted mail is a little bit of a different story. So definitely there are things that you can send over encrypted email that I'm okay with and I recommend. But I wouldn't send, you're not going to send your social security card. You're not going to send bank account information. All of those things, you're not going to send over regular email. So neither would I gift cards. Maybe ask for the code. So I had this idea and I haven't completely fleshed it out, but if you are a smaller organization that doesn't have a lot of turnover, and when I say smaller, that could be all relative, but if you have a tight, close-knit group of people, it's probably not a horrible idea to have some sort of code to where when if they really couldn't get a hold of you or something like that as the boss, then you could have some sort of code that you could say, hey, if I say, red pig or something, I don't know, then it's approved. Now, obviously, there's problems with this, and that's why I said you would really have to be a very close-knit, small type organization, because long-term you would have turnover, code would get out. It just wouldn't make sense. And then, of course, just delete the email. Just delete it. Don't respond back. So let's go through this really quick. This is what it looks like. This is actually what happened here in the last couple of weeks. So it looks like it came from Mike Farlow, but if you look at the email up at the top, you can see that it is not coming from Mike at comtechnc.com. Another thing that we have done here at ComTech is we put a little note on every single email that comes from outside of the organization that says, caution, this email originated from outside. So if you're looking at this, then you can see, okay, that's not Mike because it's not his email. And it tells me it's coming from outside. I know Mike's inside the organization. This doesn't make sense. But it keeps going. So it says, hello, I'm in a closed door meeting. Again, remember, they're doing a sense of urgency with, I can't talk on the phone. Reply back with your mobile number. Now, what happened here was the employee replied back with their mobile number. This person then replied back. So now we're in a text conversation. But here's where it gets a little interesting, and I'm actually seeing them start to go this way, which is they're starting to try to get you to text instead of email, because they know that email has more cues. So again, caution, this email originated from outside, as well as you can see, if you keep looking at that email, you can see, okay, that doesn't make sense. That's not his email. So what they want you to do is text them, because then all you have is a cell phone number. You don't have anything else. And what this employee did was they texted, but then they said, you know what? I don't have Mike's phone number in his cell phone number in my cell phone. So I'm going to add it under his contact. Now, what that did was, this is the texting, that kind of thing. And it's saying, hey, I'm available. And he's saying, I want you to go and do this, that sort of thing. Now, over here, this is where it gets kind of interesting. And this is my point when I started talking about the texting, is there is a note right here. If any of you guys know Hunter, my younger brother, this employee went to Hunter and said, hey, I don't completely know about this because I don't know if it makes sense. Well, Hunter, what he did, or what he says he did, is he said he looked at the phone and he saw that the contact number, or the contact, was Mike Farlow. So he said, I didn't even think to check the actual number, which if you look right here in these screenshots, you can actually see the number there. But which, by the way, guys, don't text that number. It's not going to turn out well. But if Hunter looked at it, and instead of having an email to look at and have multiple signals, instead he looked at it and said, oh, I see you've had his contact in there. I'm not even going to think to check the number. And he asked, and this person responded and said, yeah, I want to purchase physical store. It takes more than 4 hours to generate. And Hunter goes, okay, well, I don't know about that, but I'm really busy. Roll on. So that's how the process goes. A couple $1,000s later, you end up in a hole. So just be aware that this is happening. This actually happens quite often. Scam number 5, texting scams, same type of stuff. It also what I just talked about, but it'll be the same as email, but over text. So they'll send you something, maybe it's a coupon code for Costco or Walmart or any of these guys, and they want you to log in. And here you click a link and it's going to say, hey, you can conveniently use Facebook, Google, you can use anything you want. And that's what they're wanting. They're wanting that piece. So here's just an example I found online. Your bill monthly overcharged amount, refund, and your FedEx package. Again, if you're not expecting anything, then don't respond to it. It's not worth the time. If you do have a question, though, certainly call the store. Call whoever sent it. If it's a coupon code for Costco, call Costco and ask them, did they send that text? Do you have an account with that company? Were you expecting it? Last thing, we see this often. We see a lot of people that want to track these down, and we get that question a lot, is I'm tired of having these spam texts, or I'm tired of these emails, and I want to track the person down, that kind of thing. You can do it. You can certainly do it, or you can certainly try. I personally wouldn't recommend it. Just because in my experience, it's not worth the effort. You go to the police department, and the police department's going to tell you there's not a whole lot that we can do, really. So not from my experience. Now, so that's kind of the top 5 scams that I'm seeing on honestly a day-to-day basis, or a week-to-week basis for sure. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about the same type of scams and what the bosses can do to prevent this. So same scam. Number one, as a boss, you should be able to run a dark scan or a dark web scan across the dark web for your entire company to look for passwords across the board and let all of your employees know, hey, Jim, I know you use that password summer123. You're not using it anywhere else, correct? Because you're not using it anymore because it's been compromised. Set up monitoring service to alert you when the password dumps happen. So you can also do that where Facebook has a big data dump, then you as the boss can get alerted and go, hey, I have 3 people that were using their company account on their Facebook, and now their passwords are out in the open. Set up policies for multi-factor and complex passwords. That's a good idea anyway. Any way around it, it's a good idea to have policies in place that say, hey, if you're working for this organization and you're working on our stuff, then you're going to have an 8-character password. You're going to have to use multi-factor authentication, that kind of thing. Microsoft supposedly calls you. Ensure all your employees know that who you use for IT and methods to contact them. If you have an internal IT department, then make sure all your employees know we have an internal IT department. We don't use an outside source. So if anyone else calls you saying they're from the outside, that kind of thing, it's not true. Just have that well documented and everyone understand it. Honestly, this scam tends to happen more towards personal and not business, but I have seen some business be affected by it. The last thing, I just had a note in there that said, maybe if you're the manager, it may not be a bad idea to throw it in the company handbook in case you don't remember to mention it during training, that kind of thing. It might be a good idea to just say, hey, we use ComTech, or we have an internal IT department, whatever it may be, that's who we use. Just be aware of that. And then point them maybe to this webinar and tell them to go watch it. Email for invoice needs to be paid. Definitely have, as an owner or manager, you need to make sure you have identified your hot spots. So your hot spots are going to be your, they're definitely going to be your accounting. They're going to be shipping. They're going to be those areas where they may receive packages, send packages. So they're receiving emails about those packages, receiving payments or sending payments. Those types of people are the ones you want to make sure you have really good training with, to say, these are the people we deal with, these are the people we don't, this is how to recognize a scam, that kind of thing. Teach employees what to look for in these scams, and then teach employees what is okay to send over email and what is not. Again, I cannot repeat enough. Regular bank account information, sending just like a bank statement or sending your social security card, that kind of thing over email. It doesn't matter if you have Office 365 or you have the paid version of G Suite. It doesn't matter. It's still unencrypted unless you encrypt it. Now, your company may have a policy that says, hey, all email gets encrypted, which I doubt, because you guys probably have seen what the other side of encryption looks like. It's kind of frustrating. You have to click a link, and then they have to send you a code, and then you have to type it in, and then you can see the email. But that's what's needed for those types of financial information or that kind of thing. If you have not seen these videos, or especially that top video is the primary one I want to highlight here, certainly go into YouTube, and Keely, you might be able to do this if you could. Can you go into YouTube and type in ComTech Network Solutions and find that video, the ComTech phishing email examples? It is about 17 minutes long, as you can see there, but it is Mike going through real world examples on, this is how I identify this is a scam. These are the steps that I'm doing, that kind of thing. So that is huge. I mean, that's huge. I recommend even our employees, I recommend they watch it all the time, or at least, once for our employees, once every 3 months. They see these things all the time. But it's good to just keep it in the top of your mind. This is how you see scams. Gift card scam, clear policy. Have a clear policy on this. We're never going to ask you, like for ComTech, now we've identified it and we've made it a policy. We're never going to ask you to use your personal card for business expenses. It's just not going to happen. It will not happen. Also, we always have an open door policy. So if I ever say that I'm in a meeting and you're not allowed to walk in, but I'm asking you to go and spend money, or I'm asking you to go and do something, it's just not going to happen. Again, that code word, I don't know how I feel about that, just because it was an idea I had, but I can see the problems with it. Texting scams, I recommend employees not use work emails for personal items like Costco accounts, like Facebook accounts. That gets rid of some of that, and that's as you as a manager or an owner, if you can recommend that, that's highly recommended. That way you can keep work and personal. Teach good password habits. Training on current scams, I've already talked about that. So for the one thing I wanted to give you guys on here is, especially for the managers and such, there's a little bit more to this process, but honestly, not a whole lot more. We get asked often, and I'm talking all the time, about what do you do when you have that email that came in, you typed in your email address and you typed in your real email password and you gave it to the hackers, for a lack of better terms. What do you do in that case? So as a manager, again, if you have an IT company that's doing this, or you have an IT department, then don't stress about this part because they're doing it. If you don't know if they're doing it, or you want to just send this over, definitely send it over to them, because hopefully it'll help them. But this is how you kind of reverse the process a little bit. And some of it's pretty simple. It is pretty basic, but being able to see it from the top down may help. So first thing, of course, is reset the email password. And then when you're resetting the email password, it's a good idea to say, do we have that password anywhere else? I can't tell you how often one password's reset, but the question is never asked to do you have it anywhere else? Well, actually, I use it on my home computer. I use it here at work. I use it for my personal bank account. Those types of things, they need to be reset as well, because it's the same password. While doing this, go ahead and do it right. Make the complex 8-character password. Set up multi-factor if you can. The standard stuff. Okay. Number one, or the other thing is, check your rules in your email. So these guys are getting pretty nifty. If they get your email password, the first thing they do is write a rule in your email that says all incoming emails get either forward them over to a Gmail of their choosing, or they say forward a copy of them over to the Gmail. So that way, if they forward a copy, you never even know someone else is receiving all of your email. So be aware of that. If you are an admin for your organization, so let's say you use Office 365 or even G Suite, if you're an admin and they get your password, logic tells you they're not only going to most likely write mail rules for you, but they're going to write them for everybody else too. So now they're going to write them across the board so they can start getting everybody's emails. So do that. Of course, if you are an admin, make sure you reset everyone's password. So now we're at a place where we have to reset everyone's password. So one email phishing thing can turn into a very big thing very quick. Check mail flow or outgoing, incoming to ensure you're not mass sending emails. So that's a big thing. So a lot of times as well, they get your email and password, they grab all of your contacts, and then they just start blasting out emails. I saw this recently where they did it, they got in, they blasted out to, I think, like 400 plus contacts, just saying, hey, wanted to let you know our bank account information has changed. Please change your direct deposit to this location. And lo and behold, you start seeing mail, or you start seeing money start going away because it's being funneled to that other bank account. Now, some of the banks have protections against this. They realize that if a bank account spins up and then just starts getting a good bit of money in it, there's probably problems and it'll flag it, but not all banks do, and stuff slips. So check your mail flow, outgoing and incoming. As far as routine maintenance checks with your IT department or IT company, your standard type things of, hey, I just want to report if possible on patching, antivirus, quarantine for email, make sure nothing legitimate's going in there. You don't have it too strict, that kind of thing. User permissions, who can access what, and email as well. Again, very few people should be email admins. Very few people should be network admins. It's just a bad idea. Backup report. Is it working? Have we tested it? Which computers are being backed up and which are not? Very, very big thing. Huge thing, because there is a lot of times there's a misconception of what's being backed up and what's not. So make it very, very clear, and preferably in writing, that, okay, we're backing these machines up, we're not backing these machines up, and then have we tested that backup and made sure that it's solid and it's working. We even have some clients who want us to spin up have a quote unquote a down scenario, and let's say we're quote unquote down, we lost everything. How fast can we get back up? And we test it. We test to make sure that the backups are all working, everything's there. Log on, log off report. That's becoming a big thing now, especially as people work from home. You can set it up to where you have the right software and such. You can have it email the manager or something, a log on, log off report. So the manager can see, oh, Jim, he wasn't logging in, or he was, or let's not even take it down that road, which I actually recommend not going down that road. That sounds nasty. But if you think about it in the sense of, I'm not looking to see if my employees are working. I'm looking to see if there's any anomalies. I can't say that. If you're seeing anything weird. So, hey, I see where Sherry is logged on at 2:00 in the morning. That's kind of strange. Maybe she was up working, and that's fine, but maybe just ask her, go, hey, did you log on at 2:00 in the morning? Because that's a strange time to work. No, I didn't. Well, that can lead to, okay, well, maybe Sherry's account has been compromised. Maybe we need to look at that. Elevation request, again, if you have the right software, when someone tries to run something on their computer and it has to elevate the permissions, maybe make them an admin temporarily, something like that, so they can install something, then we should have some sort of log that goes over that. That goes right along with these scams, because one of the things they want you to do, as I talked about earlier with the phone call, they want you to install something. And to install something, a remote piece of software, well, if you had this type of stuff on there, you could say, hey, that doesn't make any sense. Why would someone need a piece of remote software on that machine? Training report, and this is pretty much the last thing, or the last couple things here. If you have cybersecurity training, if you have a formal cybersecurity training, then you can have reports of who's doing the training, who's not, what kind of percentage are they getting on their test. A couple things on training: it needs to be consistent. And consistent doesn't have to mean every day. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying weekly, bi-weekly, and it can be 5 or 10 minutes, just keeping it in the top of your mind. You as a manager, I highly recommend always testing. So don't tell everyone that you're testing. And obviously don't do it in a mean way where you're trying to corner them, but there's no reason why they shouldn't get test emails. All the employees should get test emails that are blatantly obvious if they've went through the training. And if they click the link, then you get a report, that kind of thing. So that way you can go and look and go, okay, this person may need a little bit more training. So this is actually taking over quickly as the most common ticket that we get here at ComTech. We have many clients now on the training schedule, and those fake emails are going out. And when they do, we're getting a lot of those employees email into support and say, hey, is this legitimate? Is this legitimate? I think it's scam. I think it's spam. And that's perfect. That is exactly what we want. And quite honestly, as a manager, or as an owner, that's what I want my employees doing. I want them to email the IT department or the IT company and say, look at this, please, before I touch it. That's what you want. Even just that little bit of a hesitation makes you go, okay, that's good. That's great. That saved you from a lot of headache potentially. Open dialogue about the topics. So make it a part of your weekly meetings. Any scam kind of thing. I know it's a little bit weird in the industry that we're in. We're going to talk about it, of course, but have an open dialogue with your techs or with your people about, hey, these are the scams kind of going on. I heard my aunt, she had this happen, that kind of thing. This is just a training type thing, just to give you an example, to talk about some of the trainings. Some of them in there are like vacation scams and spoofing and Bitcoin blackmail. There's all of these types of things, and you can see the score of what the employee scored over on the right-hand side. Forewarning, these tests are not difficult. But the point is just you're watching a 5-minute or less video every single week. As far as the email phishing that I was talking about, so that your company pushes out as a test, this is what it looks like. So you're able to quickly look and see, in this example, Dirk clicked on the link. So he clicked on the link. So if I see that time and time again, after a couple of weeks, I may go, okay, I really need to sit back down with Dirk, and I need to make sure that he's going with his training and that we're getting through. But you can see there, 3 out of 24 people clicked on the link. So we need to look at that and make sure that those aren't becoming our weak links. So let me open it up now, of course, for questions. This is our contact info. I think a lot of you guys know us for sure. But Keely, do we have any questions before I briefly mention the Tesla piece here at the end?
I do not see any as of right now.
Okay. Well, while I'm mentioning the Tesla piece, guys, number one, I want to thank you. If you hung on this long, for sure, I really want to thank you. There will be, which I failed to mention this at the beginning, there will be a recording of this, so that way you guys can have it. And you can even, if you want to, you can send it to your employees or just send certain sections. That's fine. But for the Tesla, so if you go to comtechnc.com/Tesla, if you follow us on the social media pages that we're on and all the different announcements and such that Keely and her team do, you've probably seen this, but if you haven't, I recommend going there. This is, we're pretty excited about this. The car was supposed to be here today. We did buy a Tesla, and we will be giving it away. It was supposed to be here today. I think it got delayed. It'll be here on Saturday. So especially if you're in the ComTech area here at our Graham office, then swing by after this weekend. You'll see it sitting up there. Definitely come and sit in it. We'll take you for a ride, that kind of thing. So the way that it works, just so you're aware, is if you don't do business with us now, then you can refer yourself. So if you have a number of phones or another number of computers, then you can quote unquote refer yourself, and you get that number, phones and computers, of entries into the drawing. Or if you know a business that could potentially use ComTech services, then you can definitely refer them. So I'm probably butchering how that's supposed to be said. So please go out to comtechnc.com/Tesla or /Tesla, and they'll explain it much better. I'm just the guy who does these PowerPoints and talks about cybersecurity here. The marketing people, they're going to talk about that. But definitely, I highly recommend going and looking at that, because we'll have the car on Saturday. We look forward to giving it away.